The air was thick with the scent of freshly cut grass and a simmering rage that had been brewing for weeks. I saw her. Her name is Brenda, but everyone in the neighborhood just calls her HOA Karen. There she was, in her immaculate linen pantsuit, bending over my prized possession, me cherry red 78 Trans AM. Wait, no. She wasn't admiring it. Her hands, encased in delicate gardening gloves, were on a tire iron, attempting to loosen a lug nut. My heart dropped into my stomach and a cold wave of disbelief washed over me, so potent it felt like I'd been dunked in ice water. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not now. I slammed the front door shut, the sound a thunderous report that echoed across the manicured lawns. Brenda froze, her head snapping up like a startled deer caught in headlights, her face a mask of feigned innocence that quickly curdled into her usual sneer. "Don't you have a permit for that?" she spat, gesturing to my car jack. Her voice, a shrill, piercing thing, sliced through the quiet afternoon. But she wasn't asking. She was accusing. The audacity. Oh, the sheer, unmitigated gall. She was caught red-handed, a tire iron clutched in her grip, a single lug nut already loose on the ground beside her, and her first instinct was to twist the narrative, to turn the blame back on me. My hands clenched into fists at my sides, my knuckles popping. Was this really my life? Was I really about to have a full-blown confrontation with the HOA president over her trying to steal my tires? "What are you doing, Brenda?" I demanded, my voice low and dangerously calm. It was a struggle to keep the tremor from it, a tremor of both fury and utter shock. "That's my car. And those are my tires." The words felt inadequate, hollow. The absurdity of it all was almost paralyzing. She scoffed, her gaze sweeping over me with contempt. "The new rule states that vehicles must be in a state of full readiness. That tire, Mr. Miller, is not in a state of full readiness. It is a blight on our community's aesthetic." She gestured grandly to the single, barely lifted tire as if it were a biohazard. "And the association has the right to dispose of any items that violate the rules." The word dispose hung in the air, dripping with venom and a sense of self-righteous authority that made my blood boil. "So you're stealing them," I stated, not a question, a brutal fact. The tire iron slipped from her grasp and clattered to the driveway, the metallic sound a sharp punctuation mark on the scene. My wife, Sarah, had emerged from the house, her face pale. She'd heard the commotion. Our son, Leo, a teenager who usually lived in his headphones, was right behind her, his eyes wide with morbid curiosity. Brenda's gaze flickered between us all, a predator assessing her audience. "I'm performing a service," she declared, her chin rising in defiance. "The rules are the rules. My duty is to uphold them." A hollow laugh escaped my lips. "The rules? Which rule book are you reading from, Brenda? The one you wrote last night on a cocktail napkin?" Her face flushed a furious shade of crimson. She lunged for the tire iron, but I was faster. I kicked it away, the sound of it skittering across the pavement a grating, unwelcome noise. "Get off my property," I seethed. "Now." Her eyes narrowed. "Fine. But you'll be hearing from me. And the board. There will be fines. Oh, there will be so many fines." And with that, she turned on her heel and strutted away, her back ramrod straight, a perfect picture of a woman who was absolutely, 100% in the wrong but utterly convinced she was in the right. It was sickening. A silent, shared breath was exhaled by my family, a collective release of tension. I ran a hand through my hair, the weight of the situation crashing down on me. "I can't believe this," I muttered, shaking my head. "Did you see that?" Leo, with the wisdom of youth, simply said, "She's so extra." Sarah just put a comforting hand on my shoulder, her silent support a balm on my frayed nerves. We knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning of a war. The next few days were a blur of paperwork and phone calls. Fines, just as she promised, began to pile up in my mailbox like a malevolent snowstorm. Illegal car jack, non-approved vehicle maintenance, unsightly property. Each one more ludicrous than the last, each one signed with Brenda's self-important scrawl. But I had a secret weapon. A small, unassuming USB drive. See, the thing about Brenda is she loves to talk, to brag. And she had a bad habit of bragging to the wrong people. A new neighbor, a retired forensic accountant named Mr. Henderson, had been on the receiving end of one of her tirades a few weeks ago. He'd been looking for my house to return a misplaced Amazon package and had stumbled upon Brenda having a loud, self-aggrandizing phone call right in front of her open garage door. Brenda, in her infinite wisdom, had been boasting about how she was going to finally teach Mr. Miller a lesson about his disruptive hobby, and had outlined her entire plan to declare my car an aesthetic hazard, and relocate the parts. Mr. Henderson, being a cautious man, had his phone recording. Not just her voice, but a clear, close-up shot of her official HOA binder. This was the truth. This was the leverage. This wasn't about a single tire, it was about Brenda's personal vendetta, her desperate need for control and the way she manipulated the HOA rules to exert her own petty tyrannies. It was a systemic abuse of power, and I had proof. My hands trembled as I plugged the USB into my laptop, the small digital device holding the key to her undoing. The video was crisp, the audio clear. Brenda's voice, a sickeningly confident drone, laid out her plan with chilling detail. He'll be so busy paying the fines for the jack, he won't even notice the tires are gone until it's too late. By then, they'll be on the community resource pile, ready for disposal. She even mentioned a specific date and time, the exact day she'd been caught. This was it. This was the moment for the counterattack. The moment to expose the truth. The HOA monthly meeting was a tense affair. The air in the community hall was thick with nervous energy. Brenda, perched at the head of the table like a queen on her throne, wore a smirk of supreme confidence. She rattled off a list of violations and disruptions, my name at the top of every list, her voice resonating with a smug satisfaction. She was in her element, basking in the power she believed she held. I waited, biding my time. My heart hammered against my ribs, a nervous, insistent drumbeat. Leo was with me, holding my hand under the table, a silent show of support. He'd insisted on coming, saying he wouldn't miss this for the world. When she finally finished her tirade and looked at me, a cruel glint in her eyes, as if daring me to speak, I stood up. The room went silent. Every eye was on me. Brenda, I began, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I believe you've forgotten to mention a few things. Her smirk vanished. A flash of fear, raw and unguarded, flickered in her eyes before she masked it with a furious glare. I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Miller. Please, sit down. You're disrupting the meeting. My smile was slow and deliberate. No, Brenda. You're disrupting the meeting. And the neighborhood. And the peace of mind of everyone here. I pulled the laptop from my bag and connected it to the large projector screen at the front of the room. A collective gasp rippled through the audience as the video began to play. Brenda's face on the screen, her voice amplified and echoing through the quiet hall, was a masterclass in self-incrimination. The room was in stunned silence, punctuated only by the sound of Brenda's recorded voice, clear as day, outlining her malicious plot. Her face, in the real world, was a horrifying sight. She went from a mottled red to a ghostly white, her eyes darting wildly around the room, searching for an escape route that wasn't there. Mr. Henderson, bless his heart, stood up and quietly confirmed the authenticity of the video. He even held up his phone, showing the original file, just in case anyone doubted. He, the unassuming twist character I never saw coming, became the hero of the hour. The tide had turned, the tables had been flipped, and the audience, once a passive audience to Brenda's tyranny, was now a jury. The confrontation that followed was nothing short of cinematic. The projector hummed, Brenda's recorded voice still occasionally audible on the loop, a ghost of her former self-righteousness. This is a fabrication. A lie. He doctored it, she shrieked, her voice cracking with desperation. I'm the president. You have to believe me. But the video, the irrefutable evidence, was right there. I just let her flail, watching as her perfect facade crumbled into a pathetic, whimpering mess. My heart, which had been pounding so hard, now settled into a steady, righteous rhythm. Brenda, the audio clearly states your plan, your intentions, I said, my voice cutting through her frantic denials. You tried to take my property. That's not a violation of the HOA rules. That's a crime. The room erupted into a cacophony of whispers and angry murmurs. People who had been too afraid to challenge her before now found their voices. One neighbor, an elderly woman who had been fined for her unapproved garden gnomes, stood up and shouted, "She fined me for my flamingos." My flamingos, Brenda. You're a monster. Another chimed in, and another. The dam had broken. Brenda, once a force of nature, was being swallowed by the very storm she had created. Her downfall was swift and humiliating. The vote for her removal from the board was unanimous, a resounding clap of thunder that sealed her fate. She sat there, a solitary figure at the head of the table, her face buried in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The community, once cowed by her petty authoritarianism, now felt a sense of camaraderie, a shared triumph. The meeting ended not with a bang, but with a collective, hopeful sigh of relief. As people began to file out, they stopped to shake my hand, to pat me on the back, a few even offered to help me with the fines Brenda had levied. It was a powerful, beautiful moment of community solidarity. The fines, it was decided, were all rescinded. I walked home under the setting sun, the air now feeling clean and crisp. My car, still on its jack, seemed to glow in the golden light. Sarah and Leo were waiting for me on the porch, a quiet smile on my wife's face. Leo just gave me a big, solid hug. It was a small victory, a single battle won in the grand scheme of things, but it was a victory nonetheless. The HOA would find a new president, hopefully one who understood the difference between community service and personal power plays. The neighborhood would heal. The lesson, I realized, was not just about standing up to a bully, but about how a small act of defiance, a simple truth brought to light, can ripple out and empower an entire community. It was a story of good versus evil, but also of complacency versus courage. It made me wonder, did she really believe she was in the right, or was it just a desperate need for control? We may never know, but I'm left thinking about it. So, here's my question to all of you, in a situation like this, where the rules are being used to justify an unethical act, is it better to be right, or to be righteous? Was Brenda acting from a place of genuine, if misguided, belief, or was it pure malice? I'd love to hear what you think.